Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're joining us. Welcome to CoinGecko Virtual Meetup number 22, exploring the zero knowledge rollup, or more commonly known as ZK rollups. It's a very exciting day. I know for crypto, I think a lot of people are watching their Arbitrum wallets and stuff like that. But nonetheless, I think it's also a good timing to talk about the other exciting developments that's happening in crypto. And when we started having roll-ups on Ethereum, and a lot of people were talking about optimistic roll-ups, and optimism and Arbitrum definitely went first, but we quickly had ZK roll-ups as well announced. So we're going to talk about ZK roll-ups today. Before we begin, I just want to introduce myself. I'm Zhong. I'm the head of research here at CoinGecko. I also want to thank KuCoin for continuing to be the sponsor for our meetups. So thank you, KuCoin. I also want to introduce two of our very distinguished guests that have very kindly joined us today. Thank you so much, Daniel Helm. He's the developer relations lead at Scroll, as well as Luis Guthmann, the ecosystem lead at Starknet. Welcome, Daniel and Luis.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so
thank you for having me too.
Thanks. And I think we have Hamzah Han. He's the head of. He just joined us. Hi, Hamzah. Can you hear us?
Hello. Can you? Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah.
But I don't know why there's no video for me. It's just weird.
Oh,
Can you see my video? No, right?
no, it's showing a blur actually.
Yeah, I don't know why. Maybe I have too much blur tokens or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know why. It's weird.
Do you want to try to log off and come back in, or?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah.
It's a cool effect.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, maybe the webcam camera is busted or something. Yeah. But I mean, how are the both of you? Are things going okay, or?
Yeah, I'm doing great this morning.
And I'm doing good in the afternoon. It's a very warm day here in Israel.
Nice.
It's not that beautiful here in Oklahoma, which is central United States, but it's getting better. Yeah, getting out of winter.
Yeah, it looks very sunny where Louis is, right? It looks like a beautiful day. Beautiful. Yeah.
There he is.
There he is. Okay.
Hello.
Hi, Hamzah.
Hey. Good morning. Good evening.
Yeah. So I guess for the audience, that's Hamzah Han. He's the head of DeFi and NFTs at Polygon. And thank you, Hamzah, for also joining us today. So I think we're going to jump right straight into it. I think when we talk about ZK rollups, when we talk about especially when we compare them against optimistic rollups and things like that, I think one of the elements, or one of the key characteristics or principles of ZK rollup is it tends to people tend to talk about the improved privacy and security, right, as a key benefit of ZK rollups. But I think I just wanted to start off by putting this question to you guys. Other than privacy and security, what are sort of the improvements that you can see, or what are sort of the not so obvious benefits that come from building a ZK rollup? And when users look around, there's so many rollups that's coming to the market today. What sort of why should they pick a ZK rollup, I guess, as the place to carry out their on-chain activity? Maybe go with Daniel first.
Yeah, sure. I like this question because I think there's some assumptions in it that are also need to be addressed for everyday users, right? I think to be clear that ZK rollups don't inherently get you security and improved privacy, right? These are things that have to be designed into the protocol. And when we talk about zero knowledge, it's important to realize that different protocols might be leveraging that type of cryptography for different things, right? And I think all three projects here have similar ways that we approach it, but there are people that will approach it in very different ways. And so it's important to kind of be like, it doesn't inherently get you security. And one piece can be privacy, but I think the systems really have to be designed from the ground up to really get that. And so for many rollups like Scroll, the thing that makes ZK proofs really magical is not the privacy pieces, but the fact that you can verify computation by a system that you don't trust, right? That verification that you can do with ZK is what's so exciting, because we can have this whole network going on, do a bunch of work, and then Ethereum itself, a smart contract on Ethereum, can verify that our whole off-chain protocol is not lying about what it's supposed to be doing, and that it's following all the rules. And so that's kind of like the security gets brought in. And I think that's just really important to let people know that like Scroll is not going to get you added privacy, but it is going to get you that security, and it's going to get that scalability. That is why so many people are building in this space. So
Cool. Luis, what about from your perspective?
So I obviously agree with Daniel. As he perfectly said, Hamza, Daniel, and I pretty much share a similar approach to the topic. What people should care about is not the privacy. What ZK Rollup brings to the table is conserving the same trustlessness and decentralization property, meaning the ability for you and I to run a node ourselves, and decouple it from what the network itself can process. So I'm going to be a bit clear. Let's clear what I'm saying. What people tend to compare the TPS, the throughput of Bitcoin versus Ethereum versus Solana. People love to do that. But it doesn't make any sense. And the reason it doesn't make any sense is because you're not comparing apple to apple. Bitcoin targets a Raspberry Pi. Bitcoin can theoretically run on your phone. Ethereum basically needs like a modern MacBook Air, MacBook 2021. And Solana requires like a $2,000 machine per month. So we're not talking about the same thing. And what DKPs bring to the table and what Validity Rollup brings to the table is this ability to separate the people who actually process transactions, the block producers, the miners, from you and I that end up using the network. And so because of that, we can require them to do a lot more and process a lot more transactions with much more expensive hardware and nevertheless still be able to run the system trustlessly. So the gain you get is not about privacy. The gain you get is about compressing the computation, compressing the chain so you and I can run it without caring too much about how they did it.
Yeah, thanks. I think those are good points as well. The fact that you can sort of run this off a laptop instead of having to have dedicated machines. Hamza, what about from your perspective? I think what are you most excited for? When Polygon started building your ZK EVM.
Yeah, I think there's not much left for me to answer, because ZK, I mean, everyone has like the same points. Like I don't disagree anything. It's just that we have been I can say for Polygon itself, like we started 4 years almost now with Plasma. So we were initially it was based on Plasma Cash, where Ethereum scaling, that was the first time during CryptoKitties when it started. CryptoKitties was the first a big PMF, so to say, product market fit for in 2017. And then Plasma Cash came, and then state channels happened, and people realized that Plasma Cash can't scale for many reasons, and then state channels was a thing. And then state channels led to something called optimistic rollups, but optimistic rollups also had the same 7-day withdrawal problems, and the change on the EVM side, you had to rewrite everything. And so there were a lot of fundamental issues. But then during and even Vitalik and a lot of these lot of Ethereum core people realize that scalability can only be solved through zero knowledge, and because there was a lot of even inventions that our friends at Starkware had done, which is very important for the whole space, with the Starks and a lot of core cryptography libraries which they invented, and which have been very important to push this space. And then that is where 2 years ago Polygon I mean, we saw the whole plasma state channel, like all those whole like trajectory, right? And we understood that there will not be one size fits all thing for sure. Like even tomorrow, God knows something else with the research that is happening on the hardware level of ZK. With like many teams are doing it on the SSL layer, someone is doing on the TLS layer. Like a lot of teams are focused on that. So I don't know, like maybe sometime in the hardware we have some more improvements, and then there will be something else. So we wanted to take a very pragmatic approach, and that is where we like went ahead and like got with these three, and now immutable X also. So technically four ecosystems of ZK projects that will really push this space forward. And yeah, I mean, we can go into it more deeper, but yeah, I mean, we are like everything that Polygon will have will be a ZK first approach.
Okay, I want to hang on to that thought on everything Polygon is going to have a ZK first approach, but I think one of the things that you guys seems to have a bit downplayed perhaps is scalability and speed, right, and throughput. I guess maybe Hamzah can continue talking a bit about this, but what are sort of the throughput or what are sort of the scalability and performance improvements can we expect from ZK rollups? But also, I think there is trade-off, right? So one of the common I guess thoughts or common thread is that it's going to cost a bit more than optimistic rollouts because of this having to compute the proofs. So I want to talk a bit about performance, but also is there sort of like a fee trade-off with in terms of like transaction costs?
Yeah, so definitely, like I mean, our mainnet will be like we our focus has been only on like the getting the prover right and getting all of those like security part of ZK rollup very important, because we will be hopefully the first ZK EVM in production mainnet, which will happen like next week. So like our main focus has been like not too much on the throughput and block times and all these things. However, things have been working fine. You can see the testnet, like everything has been working fine. A lot of teams like in DeFi, like practically every DeFi team has been testing some sort of applications, whether it is QuickSwap, Aave, Ovix, like all these like native projects as well. So but to your point of exactly coming back to the throughput part, will be definitely around these layer 2 like optimistic rollups, a bit higher, like we have been testing it. Gas, like although validity, like I don't want to like comment on the gas price, because like we've been trying to like refrain internally from like giving any concrete numbers, so to say, around the throughput and all these things, because I mean, it will be live next week, so like people can test it directly. But it'll be something around the layer 2 ecosystem. But also, like in this market, there are hardly any applications that are like really working on the TPS side of things, and like those things will be like sorted in the next few months. But our focus has been more on the security, and gas price will also be somewhere around that, not too different.
Thanks for that, Luis. What about from the Starkware side? I mean, obviously you guys have been live. I know when you guys started, and DYDX, everyone was trading on that, and the performance was quite magical, I think, compared to some of the stuff on mainnet. So maybe you could comment a bit more about that. Yeah.
Sure. So the question of the fees is actually surprising, because VK rollup should be cheaper than optimistic rollup in the long run, and the reason is the VK rollup, as I said before, allows you to compress things and to make things disappear from a perspective of the end users. So, for instance, when I talk to devs and explain to them why you should be building on Starknet, that's very simple. I tell them there is 3 reasons. Right now, 2 are ZK related. The last one is just an implementation that, for some reason, right now we're basically the only one to do. And the 2 first are cheap computation, and that's a reason. That comes from the compression, meaning I can send large transactions and I won't pay much for it, because I can discard them afterwards. The network can discard them afterwards, as opposed to Ethereum, or a regular VM chain, where you need to redo everything when you sync. So you can remove all the cost of storing your data of code Alexa. And all the computation, because once it's done once by the network and done by the improvement, then you don't need to redo again, which is what you're actually paying for when you're paying high computation price to be on the. The last one is code abstraction. Starknet has native code abstraction. That's not unique to ZKPs, but because we could build from the ground up with a new infrastructure, we decided to bite the bullet and try to go to take that path and remove the EOAs, the private keys, because that makes the UX too hard and expensive. So now the question you were asking, why we should be cheaper, and what is the trade-off? The trade-off is, as I said, now because you can compress stuff, then you can do more with the same hardware, more with the same infrastructure. And so over time, the amortization makes things cheaper. So it shouldn't be more expensive to be cheaper in the long term. And so when it comes to Starknet right now, Starknet is expensive. The main reason why Starknet is expensive right now is because our throughput is very limited. It has been limited for over 9 months for a couple of reasons, but this will radically change in a month and a half, which is when we're going to swap our existing sequencer from basically running in Python, which for any people who any technical knowledge will know it's like, what the fuck, to run in Rust, which would provide us with a 20 to 50x improvement out of the box. So expect throughput to be to blow up in 2 months, basically.
Nice. Daniel, what about on the scroll end? So how do you think about performance as well as proofing? And I know there's a lot of work go through in scroll that you have worked on the proofs.
Yeah. So, I think our approach is, we're trying to model the behavior of Ethereum's virtual machine as closely as possible with what the developer and user experience when they use scroll. And so, I think like Polygon here, I think it seems difficult to try to talk about concrete numbers for what transaction fees are going to be after testnet. We're still looking forward to things like, proto-dank sharding coming through on Ethereum's protocol, which will change data costs on the main layer. And then I think also what this conversation sometimes misses is this is like using the chain can be more expensive or not, but it's like relative to what, right? Because in some contexts, when you think about ZK bridging, we don't know exactly what all of those paradigms are going to look like, but we can start asking questions about like, will as much capital need to be locked up in those bridges for the same levels of economic security or liquidity than in optimistic rollups? Because other engineering trade-offs have been made, right? In ZK, we're going to have much faster like validation times or finality on mainnet. And so pulling your funds out of the bridge is going to be, or like way less time than the 7-day kind of waiting period you see in optimistic contexts. And so I think, again, it's one of those games that like, I think it can be talked about. I think we're going to be able to, because we can like parallelize the proofs and do all sorts of other tricks that we're still even researching and discovering some of the like smaller details of those things. It's going to be one that we're really confident that we're going to be well positioned to have great transaction and fee prices, but that doesn't necessarily mean we want to commit to any of concrete numbers or something.
Sure. Okay. I think moving on a bit to what sort of things will get built on ZK rollups. I think even when we talk about rollups, it seems like there are sort of two different routes. I would say so. One is either you go down sort of the generalized ecosystem route, which is your rollup pretty much supports every sort of app that people can build out there. But the other one is sort of like an app chain or sort of like an app specific rollup sort of route. I'm just curious. I think from you guys' perspective, how do you view this different dichotomy? Is there a specific strategy or approach that you guys are taking, and how do you see this play out? So maybe go to Luis first.
Yes. So it's very funny to me, like the narrative about app chain picking up in the last basically year. or more specifically like L3s, which but basically, like, because it's funny to me because this thing has been part of the Starkware lifestyle for like 3 years already. Diversify has been the first one to come. It was a nav specific, rollup. I know what they call it. Is it a rollup? Is it a ZK app chain? I don't really know the call it, but basically it was a nav dedicated to only trading, and that's what Diversify did. That's what
it was kind of a Validium,
Sorry?
right? It was a Validium, right? If I'm not wrong.
Sorry, can
Diversify.
you repeat?
Validium. It was a Validium.
It was a Validium, but DYDX wasn't. It still is. Like, so it's not.
Yeah.
It was Validium. But actually, the reasoning is the reason why they actually went for Validium is actually not because it was cheaper. They went for it because it was to hide the position of their users. It was more like from a practical privacy perspective, not for cost. And so it's true. Definitely, it was a Validium, but DYDX, for instance, is not. And Sorare itself is. In the context of Sorare per se, it was a question of throughput because they were trying to get very, very cheap and are trying to get very, very cheap NFTs, and this is why they went for it. So this move from app specific L2s to app specific L3s is just a natural move. It just makes things cheaper. So I do think that in some sense, and rollups are already are scaling Ethereum by creating asynchronous environments which can run on top of each other. And at some point, and like my theory, we will not be able to have all applications in the universe running on the same layer. And the reason is very, very simple. Because like at some point, if you make transaction cheap enough, then you will have always transactions that are going to compete with one another and outprice the others. And so, for instance, I'm going to give you a very concrete example. If you have DeFi on your layer, let's say you are layer 2, there is DeFi on it, and you have a game trying to make transactions which are not really money generating right now. They are not profitable at this very instant. Then they're going to be priced out because there is an arbitrage opportunity just by running the DeFi operation. And so those operations will end up naturally into the different layer. And so this is what I'm seeing right now, and what I'm expecting to see in the future.
Yeah, I think the analogy is sort of like highways, right? You the more highways you build, actually, like you get more cars coming through. You don't actually solve the traffic congestion problem because more cars actually make use of the highways. I'm curious. I think Daniel, from the scroll perspective, like how are you thinking about this? Like generalized chain for all sorts of apps, or so app specific sort of chain.
Yeah, so like as I mentioned before, like we are trying to scale Ethereum in a way that like matches Ethereum at the bytecode level for developers and users. And so we view ourselves very much as not just like scaling Ethereum, the technology, but the entirety of the ecosystem. And we want to be a general compute platform, just like Ethereum is. I think, as things shake out, I'm sure different ecosystems will have be hotter with the games community, hotter with DeFi. But to me, I think like the interoperability between these things is what makes Ethereum so exciting, right? You can think about this like emergent nature. You have all these different blocks that fall in all these different categories. And so like personally, I don't get just excited about like, I don't know, what new variety of flash loan will there be? But I want to see like, what is the new variety of flash loan that gets leveraged by a DAO doing like coordination around gamified carbon credits. Like I like when like all these different varieties of things can interact in a kind of a seamless way, and like that kind of wacky stuff is the collaboration that I get excited about. So I hope we don't lose that in people becoming kind of too niche because they just want to do finance or gaming or whatever else. So
okay. I think Hamzah, coming to you, I think Polygon situation is kind of interesting. I mean, because you have Polygon, Polygon, right? You have Ethereum mainnet, and then now you have the ZK EVM. So I'm curious. I know you said ZK EVM first, right? At earlier during the call. So I'm sort of curious. I think we are all curious, right? how is Polygon going to play this, right? How are you guys gonna approach this? Are you guys gonna sort of try to push everyone to zk EVM, or how do you go out there and speak to developers and speak to projects?
No, just to clarify, I said before ZK first, not
Yeah.
ZK EVM first. Just to be
Okay.
clear.
Okay.
Just to be clear, I said ZK first, not ZK.
Yeah, you shouldn't upset Bobin.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I was funny. People who don't know who Bobin is, the creator and head project lead of Maiden, which I'm personally very excited about, because I think the future of like high scale finance, and this might be like a hot topic, hot take over here, and Daniel will not be happy about it, but I strongly think, I wouldn't say strongly, but I still think that the future of like a Nasdaq level finance will be on a non EVM Ethereum layer 2. Like that. That will be Maiden, because that's why I'm shilling Maiden, because there's a lot.
I mean, Hamzah, I have to agree. I have to agree.
Exactly. Exactly. So because the way the way things are going, and like EVM, like with parallelization and all, like there are good, especially with Maiden. If you look at, anyways, like I'll come to the Maiden part later. How we are thinking to this ZK EVM part is that like a lot of teams have actually come reached out to us from like Solana, from Arbitrum, from Optimism, from like everywhere, because they want to understand like how will the ZK atmosphere be, how will EVM on ZK look like, and so a lot of projects will be deploying there. Even on day zero, like day one, day like first week, I mean, are testing a lot of things out. All the big governance forums, all the big protocols have the governance forums on governance posts on them. The community has been really active around that. A lot of oracles, Chainlink, API 3, Pit. There are a few niche new ones also that have been working on. So because people want to understand like what an L2 ZK L2 looks like, and EVM compatible L2 looks like. Now coming to the app chain part, like yes, like I personally am not, and I don't want to speak for Polygon, but I personally am not too bullish on the composability of DeFi across app chains, because I think it is very I wouldn't say dangerous, but it is kind of like scary, because there is because flash loans you have seen in Cosmos ecosystems and other ecosystems where you can build your sovereign chain. That's not hard. Like that you have seen with BSC, you have seen with Terra, you have seen with like so many of them. But communicating across like stable coins and loans, and lending on one chain, borrowing on another chain, and like flash loans is a very important characteristic to keep a DeFi ecosystem together, because of volume on dexes and stability of stable coins. And there is no flash loan asynchronous cross chain flash loans. uh, However, like I'm pretty interested. I've been like personally invested, and like also researching a lot into the 4626 yield, a token moving from one chain to other chain. I think that is very interesting, where like my thought process is like, okay, like if ZKVM is like this DeFi chain, because of like security and L2 and all that, and we can move a tokens in a 4626 wrapper from ZKL2 to a ZKL3, because we also have like many clients, many projects that are, like I can talk publicly now, is that there is Nubank, which is building a app chain with like 50 million users. They have 50 million users in LATAM, and they will want like yield tokens down the line, right? Because if you're building a business, you need yield to keep a fintech running, and I think Aave from main chain can provide that 4626 a token wrapped to that chain. And same with games, like same with like many other things, like Pool Together can pass their assets from this chain to that chain in a 4626 manner. I think that way it is interesting, but like it's very early to say. But I'm also believing in the ZK based L3 L2 kind of future, rather than have like your own security. That's very hard.
Okay. Uh, I okay. I I wanted to come back to Daniel a bit. I think, because you guys recently launched your alpha testnet on Girly as well. So I'm just wondering, how the experience has been. What have you seen? What are some of the apps that are sort of emerging on Scroll now, especially on the testnet, that is exciting to you? Yeah.
Yeah, so we released our alpha on Gwirly probably maybe 3 weeks ago. And we've been like surprised and excited to see just how much transaction activity is going on there. We've seen a handful of people trying to use the faster block times for game and like faster user interactions. And we've also been working with different kind of governance protocols to figure out like what we can get deployed on the testnet and what we can get people testing now. And so, we've worked through the Uniswap governance and Hop, and I know that there's others going on that the BD team is discussing with. And so mostly we've just seen devs that are just excited about the tech. They want to try it out. They want to be part of the community. And, to be honest, a whole lot of users that may or may not be automated showing up from, moving to greener pastures, as it were, after Arbitrum's successful release. But yeah, as a DevRel, my favorite thing to see as a response from these developers and projects is like basically them interacting with the scroll and just kind of not having anything to say about it. It was a boring experience. It was successful, and it felt just like mainnet. That's the thing that I want to see when developers touch scroll, and that's what we're seeing so far, which is pretty exciting.
Yeah, I think sort of that's the point, right? Because you're trying to get as close to mainnet as possible. I guess
no surprises.
Yeah, no surprises, and the solidity works as it should. I guess coming to Luis, and this is sort of the question I think around you guys definitely launched earlier than everybody else, and it was with Cairo, right? So I wanted to sort of understand a bit, why the choice with Cairo, and how do you feel about that right now? I think having your own native coding language, it's sort of challenging, I guess, with EVM getting more dominant, I guess, in the past 12 months.
So it's yes, I mean it's obviously more challenging, but okay, let's start with why, right? The why is obviously the technical why. Why is because you have to understand that VKPs and regular computer and regular programming don't work the same. They literally don't work using the same way of thinking the world, in some sense. Your computer likes bits and bytes, it likes the Boolean logic, like the numbers you see on the matrix. DKP is like the arithmetic and the number that you saw when you were in middle school. And so we wanted to create an infrastructure and a tool that was optimized for the way things actually behave. And what virtual machine, that VMs, it's infrastructure, it's called Cairo. And we had to create a new language that takes advantage of every bit of performance you can get from this environment. And the interesting thing about it is it has been, first of all, extremely successful in terms of adoption and in terms of innovation. So the first thing I'm going to say is I'm going to quote a number from a VC that is not a Starkware investor in Starkware, nor in the ecosystem, which is the developer report from Electric Capital. And Starknet has had the fastest growth in developer across all blockchain in the last 2 years, blowing off the mark of Aptos and Sui. And basically, if you look at the trajectory, pretty much similar to what BNB started like. I mean, I wish, honestly, honest to God, I wish that we're going to have the same adoption success than BNB, than the Binance Smart Chain. The other interesting thing about this is the builders that we have in the ecosystem are fearless because, as I told them many times, like to build on Cairo and Starknet right now, not in 2 years time, but right now, is to like to eat glass. You have to be a bit sadistic and masochist to want to learn that language right now. And the people who do so are just extremely talented individuals with a lot of innovation, related ideas, and wants to try things differently. And as I said before, there were the three reasons I said before. They want to explore those things. So, for instance, we had someone who built, using kind of abstraction and cheap computation, a wallet, a real wallet, a full self-custodial wallet that is signed using your Face ID. You literally are signing a transaction using your phone. And I'm going to go into detail of why it works and why does this work, etc., etc. But basically, that's the way it goes. We had people starting to do what we call storage proofs of Ethereum. Storage proof is a thing as old as ETH. The idea that it can prove the past of Ethereum to now. And these were not practical because computation was expensive, the fact that data was expensive. And so we saw that application popping all across the ecosystem. And those people trying the new thing that they couldn't do before. And so you have the people from Loot, the people from Dopewar, the people from Brick, a lot of new influence, a lot of new application trying on the gaming front to get this right. And so, interestingly, we have seen very little fork because there is like no way to fork. Not an Uniswap B2 number 345. We have people trying to build actual order books of perps. People trying to build option market, or trying people to create pure real on-chain games with on-chain logic and create collaborative tools. There is even someone who did a tool to make collaborative music. So Cairo has been, honestly and surprisingly to me, as a guy who needs to go to the world and go preach the language, like literally going across the world with my staff and explaining to the world why the good word is for learn Cairo. Cairo has been a blessing in disguise, meaning it filtered out a lot of devs, which isn't a problem, it's going to change soon. But it provides us with a base ecosystem of talented, extremely passionate devs who are willing to try new things. That's what gets me excited.
Yeah, I think it sometimes can work that way, right? So you have people that are really dedicated and really crazy about the ecosystem, and especially developers who are really passionate about a particular language, and then they sort of go on and sort of build great things. I think both Daniel Scroll talked about testnet, Hamzah talked about ZK Polygon, about ZKVM about to launch. We have Arbitrum obviously doing the airdrop, but their chain went live a lot earlier. But Luis mentioned Aptos, the launch was very patchy to sort of say the least, right? I'm just wondering, as you guys move closer to launching, I think from Luis' perspective, you're about to swap out your sequencer. How are you managing users' expectations when they come and use the chain? Do you feel that you sort of need to tell them like, look, this is still in beta, take it slow and don't try to break it on day one?
We should start.
Hamzah first, maybe, since your chain is going live. Yeah.
I don't know. We even Arbitrum. I'm just looking at our chats. Arbitrum has some issues with claiming, but I don't know if it's on the chain level or just. I don't know if it's on the chain level or just the RPC level, because RPCs are not that of a good experience. A lot of people have in the Discord and chats, everyone has been shouting all sorts of things, but those things happen. So it's good for us. We don't have a new token. No token, no nothing. If you want to build, you want good stuff. Ethereum does not have any airdrop or whatever. People build because that is our goal. If we have to become top 3 in terms of adoption, in terms of respect in the ecosystem, that Polygon has to be all these things. It is fine. We have I joined Polygon 2.5 years ago. There were so many things in between, but not to sound but yeah, we let's see what happens on there. Of course, there will be training wheels. Of course, there will be a lot of things. Like all the public RPCs and everything will be made public. Like will be there for people to test and everything. But yeah, like I mean, since there is no token, so like I don't think there will be as much like craziness from the people from the people as you are seeing now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. Let's see. Like let it be as organic as possible. We'll see.
Yeah. I think Luis, I mean, obviously you guys are live, but I think, from your perspective, I think
Oh,
in terms of, sorry, go ahead.
no, please go ahead. Please go ahead. I have
Yeah.
many comments to say. We are live is yes, go ahead.
In terms of, I think just onboarding, people, onboarding users onto your chain itself. I mean, it's different wallets and things like that. Do you find that a struggle? Yeah.
So look, my take on this is a bit different. So the different wallets is obviously also, but because of the economic abstraction, onboarding is a lot easier than you would get, like on ETH, for instance. You don't have to write down your 20 forwards, to put it simple. And that's has made the onboarding process rather good. Now you ask me, you said like, how do you manage expectation? Honestly, we did, for instance, Starknet didn't leave the TVL cap on the bridge net. So we are live in the dev and exploring and doing stuff, and there is a bit of activity. But the point is that it's not prime time activity yet. This is going to change, as I said, very, very soon. And we see right now, I mean, 2 days ago when we launched, we started what we call Regenesis, which is the launch of Cairo 1, and which is like a requirement for decentralized network. And things are gonna speed up very, very fast from now. And so if you have a question now, like, oh, how the onboarding experience with the users has been so far, I would say, honestly, I don't try to appeal them yet. I don't even try. Like, it's like the experience is going to be bad. Like, let's be honest. And it's not the point. It's not the point. It's not what I'm trying to achieve right now. It's not what I'm trying to achieve right now. If we ask me a question in 2 months, it's a different story in the different ballpark. We're going to see. This is when the game will be on. And because of it, because we've been testing those infrastructure for so long, I don't expect it to go rather smoothly, even when we start to unleash the water of hell.
Okay. Daniel, what about you guys? I mean, obviously you guys just went with alpha, and maybe the path is a bit longer, but just in terms of bringing on people on day one, and yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think alpha has been fun and pre-alpha because I don't think our engineers were expecting stress tests quite yet, and they've gotten it. So I think it's been a good way to really push up that sort of stability and performance in the roadmap, right? I think there was other things that we're maybe going to take priority, and it's like, no, we have to get these test nets stable and happy for everyone that wants to use them. So obviously, like, security is a big thing. There's going to be lots of activity on day one. We're excited about that. And like I hope every other project here, we have this like euphemism about training wheels. But at the end of the day, like until we reach full decentralization, at every layer of the stack, to be quite honest, from the developer mindset and to someone that like loves Ethereum, like to me that is actual day one, right? Like we're gonna do all these things in the meantime. We're gonna be playing with real money here, but I'm looking forward to that roadmap playing out more than all the intermediary steps that people will take to get there. So
Okay. Today is Arbitrum Day, so it's kind of unavoidable that we sort of thought about tokens. I'm not gonna go to Hamzah first because he just said no token, but maybe we'll circle back to that. But I want to go to Luis because I know you guys just announced a Starknet DAO. I'm wondering, I think one of the common, I wouldn't say complaints, but sort of like one of the things that we sort of understand is, you start out sort of a bit more centralized, especially with the sequencer, and then sort of you progressively try to get more decentralized. That seems to be the path and the roadmap now. So, with Starknet DAO, I wonder how you guys are thinking about it from your end.
So of course, so it's not a DAO to be specific. It's a foundation, like the Firm Foundation and so on, which goal is to promote the adoption of Starknet and education around Starknet. And so how we think about the token. So it's actually a very interesting topic, and saying that the space already solve DAO and voting, and especially for the context of DAO2, would be a joke. So I expect to have a lot of experiment, notably around governance. Something I will hope we're actually going to get away from. At something we managed to do away with is DAO's voting, governance through voting, through token voting. We don't really have yet a design for it, but we are talking with people like Peter van. I can't pronounce it because it's a Netherlands last name, so van Broek. He was the director at Icon Center, but he's one of the greatest legal minds in the space. I'm been insanely surprised by the depth and the quality of the analysis he gave us, both at the Starknet session, that event that happened last month, and at the different governance day we have with him so far. So the token, the role of the token in the context of Starknet is to empower the ecosystem. And our ecosystem right now is, as I said, mostly focused towards bringing it to the depth. So my personal focus, but I'm not the one voting for the foundation, is to empower the builders to have a say to what's going on. And if you look at, it's something that has been very core to the way we have been doing things in the Starknet. If you look, there was a Bankless episode following the Starknet session, talking about Starknet as an ecosystem, and he was like, I'm going to quote David Hoffman here, was saying like, the start of a Starknet nation, where he saw, he went to the hacker house and to a couple of places where he saw people discussing governance naturally by themselves between one another. And this is the sort of empowerment we're talking about. And this is the way what tokens are very good about. Like they are allowing you to have a say and not be only the consumer or the tool of infrastructure. So I cannot make, it's not my, I'm not very comfortable talking tokens in here because I'm like, it's not a stop. I'm bad trader. I don't really know what to say about tokens except that they are cool and we should all have tokens. But I know like that's something ridiculous about this. But what I'm saying is that they're extremely good at aligning communities. And one thing that's why I want to see is having the right people with the right empowerment, being able to behave and act into the ecosystem.
Yeah, I think your point on having tokens but not necessarily using voting for governance is pretty interesting if you ask me, and I do look forward to see how those models evolve.
So you should listen to Peter. Basically Peter has these ideas around a system similar to the way the common laws, this in the UK, which basically are ruled through a series of. Okay, the UK basically has used precedents to create laws in many capacities, and so the idea is, can we create an environment where you small iterative layers of decisions by arbitrage leads you to have sort of meta governance. It's very hard. It's unclear how you can make it happen. But there is something very interesting. For instance, ETH and Bitcoin, which are basically the most successful project in the world, right? Doesn't have both token voting.
Yeah.
Oh, and I'm very happy for it. If I had a choice, I would go for no governance because rough consensus is much better than token voting. And that's another topic that no one we don't really discuss because there is this way to go and blah 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 etc. But it's something that is much more interesting. There is a lot more to talk about. But decentralization, the thing that we actually have a very ambitious plan. They are published on the community Discord forum, and that's from there we're going to continue seeing a lot of. We're going to present soon, I hope, the protocol design that we have in mind, and be able to show how we plan to decentralize and how we're going to do it. I can say it's rather ambitious and honestly very interesting path forward.
Nice. Daniel, I saw you nodding there a bit, and I think how is Crow thinking about this? You guys have modeled yourself as close to Ethereum and EVM as possible, and like Luis mentioned, right? So Ethereum doesn't have this sort of governance mechanism, at least with ETH. So yeah, perhaps give us a bit of a hint, I guess. I know maybe it's not the right time and you can't say much.
Well, yeah, I'm going to totally pass on scroll token question, but yeah, we are committed to using Ethereum as our native token for gas payments. And yeah, I mean, I think at the layer 2 level, you can't emulate everything exactly as the layer 1, right? And so I think, yeah, I mean, to be honest, I don't know the exact plans for the governance structure, but I just from first principles, right? Like if you have, while you still have centralized elements of your mechanism, someone's got to be making the decisions around those things, right? You can't necessarily move towards that open framework of open source collaboration and rough social consensus. And so it'll be a while, I think, before those things have to get really nailed down. But yeah, so again, I think just also one thing to keep in mind is like all these layers, I think, will have new crypto economic puzzles to kind of solve, right? When you decentralize a prover network, people are going to need to be incentivized to participate in that network. When you decentralize a sequencer network, and then if both of those are playing into the same system, how do those things stay in balance? How do they not get out of whack so they make sure that everyone's incentivized to be providing these resources? I don't think it's going to be a trivial problem to solve. So,
yeah, thanks for that, Hamzah. I think from your end, I mean, I think it's more the decentralization question, right? So how do we move down that route? I guess people are always keen to remove those centralized elements.
Yeah, for sure. So I agree to some of these things about like tokens are important and like these things, like otherwise we would be doing the same like open source software without any incentives for the right people. So that part I completely agree. However, like yeah, Matic token will be the token to stake for all these chains, and ETH will be gas on the ZK EVM and even like future whatever comes. And even the POS chain, we are actively working on upgrading it into a ZK rollup. That is the next big thing for us. It'll be like I don't want to sound cheeky or what, but it'll be kind of like our Polygon merge, where to make this POS chain into a ZK back onto Ethereum. That is the next thing after this launch goes live. So because all of the user traction and everything is there. And sorry, what exactly was the question? There are a lot of things to discuss. So
Yeah, I think the question was really around these rollups tend to start as pretty centralized, at least from the sequencer perspective, and then is there a plan to eventually decentralize moving forward?
Oh yeah. I mean, see, like even Polygon and like all of the big projects like they start off centralized because like it's just like rapid iteration is easier, and because this is such like high tech, like such novel technologies there, like you don't want to give it to the community at first because it doesn't make sense, and you lose the what do you call the ability to iterate and make the best technology. So that makes sense. Polygon also, like we have a big governance like revamp happening in the on also on the token side, as well as on the whole governance of the validator, because now we don't have any like C suit, so to say. Like there's no CEO, there's no COO, there's like a foundation, and all the co-founders are part of it, which is, and other people like the multi-sig, and there's a like all sorts of like decentralization techniques happening. Like even on the forum, you can see on forum.polygon.technology major major discussions around validator voting, and all these like reorg discussion, and different consensus discussions happen on the forum. Like I started that forum 2 years ago, so the forum was very important to have all these discussions in public. No, I think it starts centralized, but eventually, and Polygon like is pretty much decentralized, like the token as well as the chain and validator and everything. So
Yeah. Um, we're close to wrapping up, but I think there are some questions from the audience as well. But I think just want to get to some of it. I think one of the questions I think that I still had really was with talent, right? So ZK is obviously new technology. I think, even if we just rewind a couple of years, it was pretty much the realm of academics, and anybody who was talking about this and making sense of it was like professors or PhDs. I'm wondering, like, how are you guys looking at it? I think both from your own team, right? So you need to hire people who are obviously going to have to pick this up, and also even for check and balance perspective, right? There needs to be people working in, say, audits, who can actually validate a lot of the work a lot of the good work that the team has done from your end. So I'm curious, how you guys are thinking about talent in the ZK space, and how do we grow this pie, I guess, to sort of make sure that there's a constant stream of talent. Maybe Daniel can go first. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So this might not be surprising from a DevRel, but like to me, education is one of the pieces. I think making the technology more accessible, that can happen in lots of ways, right? That can be through making more material that's beginner friendly. Like there's no shortage of inbound interest from developers because ZK is hot right now, right? And so we've been doing a lot of work. We've organized learning sessions with audit firms. We've hosted learning groups. We've been putting on Halo 2 workshops and sponsoring ZK developer events. Like pretty much anything that can support people learning more, understanding the tech better. And some of that is from like this like language level, and some of this is like high building blocks level, and some of it's fundamentals level, right? And so there's a lot of places to attack, and I think just trying to be as open and as generous with our knowledge as possible has been our focus. So,
and Hamzah, on your end,
on the education part of things,
yeah, and getting more people who understand ZK, and to get to know
yeah,
ZK, man.
I mean, like workshops, hackathons, and all these things like definitely help. Like on every major event, there is some sort of like ZK hackathon that Polygon hosts, and now, in fact, like ZK podcast, Zero Knowledge podcast from Anna Rose, like Polygon has been a major contributor and sponsor to for the whiteboard series, which is very important. Like even I was watching. Day before yesterday with the Ethereum Foundation folks were there discussing with Brendan from our team and from Polygon Zero and Anna. So they're getting that those things are very important for like core research side of things, and then developers eventually through hackathons and through all these different different like outreach campaigns that Polygon has always been doing since day one, even before Polygon became Polygon. Like ETH Global, like Polygon has always had like major presence and will continue to have a bunch of things there.
Luis, what about your end? I mean, you guys had to start early with starts and things like that.
Right. I mean, so education is the other thing. We have now an education team spread across the globe with 17 members in India, in Australia, toward China, in Latin America, in the US, multiple in the US, and Europe also. So we have been pushing research, things like the CFFT, DeFi, and so on. And we pioneer the whole Stark space, right? So, which is funny enough, Daniel may becoming like a lot of people are saying to see that the Stark move was maybe not so dumb because of various technical reasons. But in terms of education and getting people excited, as I said, there is two parts. There is what you can do as an entity, as a company, as an ecosystem, and what you can empower others to do. And so, for instance, we are going to have a meetup in Nepal, literally next week. We have meetup in Malaysia. We have meetups happening in Kenya, in Lagos. I mean, in Lagos, in Nairobi, in Nigeria, in basically everywhere in Latin America, all across the globe. And the point is, on our case, is not only us doing things, but also empowering people to do. And I'm seeing this sort of like collaborative peer-to-peer education happening all the time, and this is very exciting.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, CoinGecko is in Malaysia, and I've definitely been to a Starkware event organized by people who don't work at Starkware, but
yes,
yeah.
I don't know if I should. I'm not aware. I'm not from Starkware. I don't know if I should name them, but I say hi to my bro there.
Yeah, yeah. I think we're almost out of time. I wanted to wrap up. I think last question for all of you guys is what are you guys looking forward to for 2023? Are you guys gonna go live? And what are your hopes for your respective ecosystems? So Luis, why don't you go first?
Excited for 2023. Look, Starknet will be finally out of alpha. And I want to see all the thing that's going to happen when we start to have a decent human being throughput, which we don't have right now, and see all the talented people building finally launch their stuff on mainnet.
Hamzah?
Yeah, pretty much same. Pretty much same. But also, I'm pretty excited about this thing, the POS merge, the Polygon merge. Like I think that will be like a very very big thing because in a running chain, if you can convert it into a ZK in a ZK L2 or Validium, I think that will be pretty cool. And no one has ever done that, and it becomes a decentralized network. So decentralized ZK Validium. So I think that will be very, very interesting, and I'm pretty excited about that.
And last but not least, Daniel.
Yeah, I mean, on the scroll side, of course, also getting out of alpha. That's going to be wonderful. Hitting mainnet's going to be big and exciting. But, I'm really excited to see ZK rollups generally just open up the world of Ethereum, especially to like a new cohort of users that onboarded onto Ethereum after high gas prices. So they're already, priced out of all these things. So I'm really excited to see what faster block times and cheap transaction costs are going to do for public goods and regenerative finance, financial inclusion, all the stuff that makes Ethereum so rich and exciting. So,
okay. I think that's all the time that we have. Thank you so much for joining us, Daniel, Luis, Hamzah. It's been a very fascinating sort of chat, and I definitely learned a lot, and I'm sure our audience learned a lot. So thank you so much for joining us today. Thanks you guys in the audience who stayed on until the end. I just have two announcements. First, I want to thank KuCoin again for sponsoring this meetup. And secondly, if you stayed to the end, as a token of appreciation, we're giving away a promo code. So CoinGecko5, CoinGecko5. If you put that in to our website, you can get $5 off our CoinGecko store. So thank you everybody, and take care. And see you guys soon next month for our next meetup. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Airdrop participants.